Whispers of a ghost, the desert winds of Carthus IV carried a dry, metallic taste. Bronze sand stretched far beyond the horizon, glowing under 3 pale suns. Out here, the galaxy felt distant, forgotten, just like the people who chose to live on this frontier world. Among them was Marcus Holly, a man who preferred silence to company. Once, he had worn the uniform of Earth's defense fleet. Now, he was only a mechanic, patching up broken alien haulers, sheep merchant skiffs, and the occasional hover wagon for settlers who could barely pay him. He didn't complain. He didn't need much, but inside, Hale carried ghosts. He had seen Earth's fall from prominence, seen humanity's fleets broken, scattered, absorbed into the Galactic Coalition like dust swallowed by a storm. The humans had become just another minor species, under alien oversight. Their glory days, those legendary ships of the old Terran Navy, were spoken of as myths now, and one myth towered above the rest, the Avalon. The Terran supercarrier, the largest human warship ever built. A floating fortress, bristling with enough firepower to challenge entire armadas. Official records said it was destroyed during the Coalition integration wars nearly 2 centuries ago. But stories lingered, passed like forbidden campfire tales. The Avalon had not died. It had vanished. Marcus never believed them. Not really. Until tonight. The sky cracked with thunder, though Carthus IV had no storms. Marcus stepped outside his workshop, shading his eyes against the glare. A fireball blazed overhead, streaking across the desert night. The flames peeled away, and for a moment, a fraction of a second, he saw it. Not a meteor, not debris. A ship. Massive. Scarred. And unmistakably human in design. The ground trembled as the object disappeared beyond the horizon. A low boom followed seconds later. Marcus's chest tightened. Could it be? The next morning, word spread through the settlement like wildfire. A crash site had been found far to the east. Coalition patrols were already heading there. Marcus kept his head low, working on an old alien Sandrunner engine, until a shadow fell across his shop. Human, a voice rasped. Marcus glanced up. A figure loomed tall, thin, with a translucent exoskeleton that shimmered like glass. Eyes like polished obsidian blinked slowly. Kelther, one of the Threxian traders who sometimes passed through town. "You've heard the rumors," Kelther said. "A relic. A ship of your kind." Marcus tried to keep his voice even. "Lots of ships crash out here. This one did not fall," Kelther countered. "It descended, controlled, and it called." Marcus frowned. "Called?" Kelther's mandibles twitched. "On Coalition frequencies." "But the language," he paused. "It was human." Something deep inside Marcus stirred. A spark he had buried long ago. Kelther leaned closer. "The Coalition will bury it. If it is what I suspect, they will erase it. But you, human, you might understand it. You might claim it." Marcus stared into the alien's black eyes. "Where?" Kelther extended a slender arm, projecting a holomap from his wristband. A blinking point marked the desert east of the settlement. Marcus hesitated, then made his choice. He packed his old rifle, a few tools, water, and rations. By nightfall, he and Kelther were heading east. The desert stretched endlessly, glowing. Under starlight, Coalition patrol ships swept overhead, their blue searchlights combing the sands. "We won't be the only ones searching," Kelther murmured. Marcus tightened his grip on the controls of his Sandrunner. He didn't know why he cared. He didn't know why his heart pounded harder with every mile. But part of him already knew the truth. The Avalon was calling. By dawn, the dunes gave way to a canyon scarred by fire and impact. Smoke coiled into the sky. The wreck lay half buried in stone and sand, colossal in scale, dwarfing even the largest coalition dreadnoughts Marcus had seen. Its hull was blackened, torn, but intact. Towers and spires jutted from its spine like the bones of a long-dead giant. Even broken, it was magnificent. Calther hissed softly. By the stars, it lives. Marcus stepped forward, his throat dry. His boots crunched on scorched sand as he approached the monolithic hull. His hand brushed the metal warm, humming faintly. A voice crackled faintly through his earpiece. Double quotes. Terrn Supercarrier Avalon. Requesting identification. Marcus froze. Calther looked at him sharply. What is it? Marcus's breath caught. The voice repeated. Alive. The ship was alive. Suddenly, lights flared across the canyon. Coalition patrol craft descended, weapons trained. Loudspeakers boomed in a dozen alien tongues. This site is under Coalition jurisdiction. Step away from the wreck. Calther cursed in his native clicks. They found us, Marcus's heart thundered. He pressed his hand harder against the hull. The faint hum grew stronger, pulsing beneath his palm. Like a heartbeat. The Avalon system stirred, responding to him. The Coalition soldiers shouted again. Last warning. Move away or be fired upon. Marcus whispered, almost without realizing. I'm here. The hull lights rippled. A deep vibration shook the ground. And then the supercarrier awoke. Engines roared like gods. Towering cannons shifted, ancient servos grinding. Dust and sand blasted into the sky as the Avalon's colossal frame began to rise. The Coalition patrol ships reeled back in panic. Marcus stood frozen, awe blazing in his eyes. The forgotten human supercarrier had returned. The awakening of Avalon. The desert shook like a living thing. Dust spiraled into the air, drowning the canyon in a storm of grit and light. The ground quaked under Marcus's boots as the Avalon, a ship thought lost for 2 centuries, shifted against the sands that had entombed it. Coalition patrol craft scattered like startled insects. Blue engines flaring as they scrambled out of range of the rising colossus. Marcus shielded his eyes. He could barely comprehend what he was seeing. The supercarrier's titanic hull groaned as massive plates realigned. Vents opened, spewing smoke and compressed steam. And then, from somewhere deep inside that ancient frame, a sound rolled out. Across the canyon, a voice. Cold, ancient, human, identity required. Unauthorized entities will be purged. The words vibrated through the ground, through Marcus's chest, straight into his bones. Calther staggered back, mandibles clicking nervously. It still breathes. But if it cannot tell friend from foe, it will kill us all. Marcus's instincts took over. He stepped forward, planting his palm on the still glowing hull. Avalon, he rasped, voice hoarse from the grit in the air. It's me, Marcus Halle, Terran Defense Fleet, Lieutenant, First Class. There was a long pause. The air felt heavy. Then the voice shifted warmer now, though still mechanical. Lieutenant Marcus Halle. Confirmed. Lineage matches crew registry. Terran bloodline verified. The ship's glow brightened, casting long shadows across the canyon walls. Coalition soldiers shouted over their comms. Open fire. Do not let it fully activate. Blue beams and crackling plasma bolts cut through. The dust storm, slamming into the Avalon's hull. Sparks danced. Metal shrieked. The supercarrier ignored them. Instead, massive turrets unfolded, their barrels larger than entire patrol ships. Slowly, methodically, they swiveled toward the attackers. Calther. Eyes widened, reflecting the glow. If it fires, the Coalition will send an entire fleet. This world will burn. Marcus's gut twisted. He pressed both hands against the hull. Avalon, wait. Stand down. Don't fire. The voice rumbled again. Reason for command override? Marcus's mind raced. He thought of Earth, of scattered humanity, of the weight of history pressing down on him. Because, he whispered, we've lost too much already. The turrets froze. The humming power within them faded to silence. For a moment, the canyon was still. Then, slowly, the great guns folded back into place. The coalition craft hovered in confusion, clearly unprepared for mercy. Marcus exhaled shakily. He had just convinced the deadliest ship humanity had ever built to stand down. But for how long? Inside the coalition. Command vessel orbiting Carthus IV. Alarms blared. Admiral Varys of the Corth Dominion, commander of the local sector, stared at the live feed on her tactical screen. Her reptilian eyes narrowed, scales bristling with fury. The impossible was unfolding before her. A Terran supercarrier, something she had studied only in Forbiddens. Archives was rising from the dust. Her claws dug into the armrests of her command. Chair, asterisk, this is not possible, she hissed. The Avalon was destroyed at the Battle of Morn Halo. A nervous aide bowed low. Admiral, scans confirm it. The vessel is operational. And responding to a human. Varys's throat vibrated. With a low growl. Unacceptable. If the humans regain a weapon of this magnitude, the balance of the coalition collapses. Dispatch every available cruiser. Seal the system. Yes, Admiral. Her gaze hardened. This relic will not leave Carthus IV. If it does, humanity will rise again. Back in the canyon, the Avalon's voice echoed again. Lieutenant. Marcus Hall. Systems critical. Power reserves minimal. Core integrity unstable. Assistance required. Marcus felt his pulse quicken. What do you need? Access interior. Repair crew stations. Reinitialize core functions. Kelther shifted uneasily. You mean, go inside that thing? Marcus turned to him. If I don't, it'll die. And the coalition will rip it apart. Kelther hesitated. If you go inside, there is no turning back. They will brand you a criminal, a traitor to the coalition, perhaps even a spark of rebellion. Marcus almost laughed, bitter and sharp. I was already forgotten. What more can they take from me? The alien studied him for a long moment, then inclined his glassy head. Then I will go with you. If the coalition fears this ship, perhaps there is a reason. Together, they searched. For an entry hatch dot, the canyon trembled as hidden mechanisms ground into motion. A vast ramp extended, slamming into the sand with a deafening crash. A dark corridor yawned open, lit only by faint red lights. Marcus took a breath. Let's see if humanity left any ghosts behind. He stepped into the darkness. The interior of the Avalon smelled of age-stale air, scorched wiring, dust untouched. By time, the corridors stretched endlessly, lined with control panels that sparked faintly as systems reawakened. Kelther trailed close behind, his translucent carapace catching the glow of emergency lights. This place, Marcus whispered. It's like a tomb. Correction. The ship's AI boomed, startling them. This vessel is a fortress. Awaiting her crew's return. Marcus's chest tightened. The Avalon wasn't just alive, it was waiting. They followed the glowing path deeper until they reached a central chamber. Holograms flickered to life, displaying tactical maps of stars Marcus barely recognized. Earth's coordinates blinked faintly in the corner, a lonely reminder of home. Power at 17%. Weapon systems offline. Shields compromised. The Avalon reported. Repairs mandatory. Crew required. Marcus touched one of the consoles. The interface responded instantly, adjusting to his DNA signature. Kelther marveled. It knows you. Marcus swallowed hard. It knows. All of us. Suddenly, the chamber shook. Dust rained from the ceiling. Warning. Incoming bombardment detected. Coalition cruisers in orbit. Orbital strike imminent. Kelther's mandibles clicked in alarm. They mean to bury us alive. Marcus's hands flew across the console. Avalon, can you defend yourself? Weapons offline. Shields minimal. Structural integrity compromised. The ship shuddered again as distant explosions thundered. Across the canyon, Marcus clenched his jaw. Then we'll have to get you moving. He scanned the flickering readouts. Auxiliary reactors offline. Core drives dormant. Systems waiting for a crew that no longer existed. His mind raced. He wasn't an engineer, not really. He was a mechanic. But mechanics were built on improvisation. And humanity's talent was making broken things work again. He turned to Kelther. If I can reroute the auxiliary grid, Avalon might lift off. But I'll need help. Kelther spread his thin arms. I do not understand your machines, human. Marcus grimaced. Then you'll just have to trust me. Another impact rocked the ship. Warning sirens blared. Orbital strike in 180 seconds. Marcus's heart pounded. He sprinted toward the reactor control bay, Kelther scrambling after him. Panels sparked, conduits roared, the air itself humming with restrained power. Marcus dove into a nest of exposed cables, hands working furiously. Sparks burned his skin as he rerouted circuits, coaxing the ancient ship awake. Kelther hovered nervously. The coalition will not stop. Even if we rise, they will send fleets. Marcus gritted his teeth, then let them come. With a final wrench of wires, the deck roared beneath them. Engines. Colossal. Ancient engines. The Avalon trembled, power surging through her veins. Marcus collapsed against the console, sweat stinging his eyes. Core drives initializing. Liftoff sequence engaged. The chamber pulsed with blue light. The ground quaked as the carrier prepared to break free of her sandy tomb. Kelther's voice trembled. Marcus, if we leave this world, there is no going back. You will be marked forever. Marcus pushed himself upright, staring at the rising holographic displays. I already made my choice. The countdown blared. Liftoff in 10, 9. Outside, Coalition cruisers descended, their weapons primed. Admiral Varys's voice echoed over combs, cold and merciless. Destroy the supercarrier. Reduce it to ash. The desert sky lit up with fire. The Avalon roared in defiance. And then the earth split as the forgotten human supercarrier rose from the sands of Carthus. IV. Fire in the skies. The desert split apart as the Avalon tore free. Of her sandy grave, for 2 centuries she had slept beneath dust and myth. But now her colossal frame rose, engines blazing with ancient fury. Shockwaves rippled outward, toppling Coalition patrol craft like toys. Marcus clung to the command rail inside the carrier's bridge chamber, Kelther at his side as the decks shook with raw power. Warning, hull integrity 62%. Shields at 14%. Orbital bombardment in progress. The AI's calm voice echoed over the chaos. Kelther hissed, mandibles trembling. They will annihilate us before we even breach atmosphere. Outside, fire streaked downward. Coalition cruisers unleashed. Their wrath, raining plasma and kinetic rounds into the rising behemoth. Each impact rattled the ship like a hammer against bone. Marcus's knuckles whitened on the railing. Avalon, give me options. Offensive systems offline. Suggestion, evade. Marcus barked a laugh that had no humor. Evade? The ships. The size of a city? The AI responded without hesitation. Size irrelevant. Calculating trajectories. Maneuvering thrusters engaged. The bridge tilted sharply as the Avalon leaned, groaning against gravity's grip. Ancient thrusters fired in sputtering bursts, pushing the massive vessel into an angled climb. Coalition fire slammed into the hull again. The lights flickered. Alarms wailed. Marcus fought to stay calm. He had lived through ship battles before small ones. Frigates, escorts. But this was different. This was like standing inside a mountain that someone was trying to crack open. Calther clutched a console, his translucent carapace glowing faintly with stress. We cannot survive this. The Coalition will throw fleets, armadas entire. Sectors to bury this thing again. Marcus turned to him, eyes blazing. Then we make sure they fail. In orbit, Admiral Varys's fleet closed in. Her scaly fingers drummed across her armrest as she studied the tactical feed. The Avalon, impossibly, was climbing. How? She snarled. That ship is 2 centuries old. Her aide stammered, Admiral, its hull plating is withstanding direct bombardment. Ancient Terran alloys, some kind of self-reinforcing design. Our weapons are struggling to penetrate. Varys's reptilian eyes narrowed, then closed the distance. Tear it apart piece by piece. Her command ship surged forward, leading a formation of cruisers that encircled the Avalon's rising. Frame, weapons locked. Barrages intensified. But then the carrier's engines flared brighter. Dust and smoke blasted outward and slowly, impossibly, the Avalon broke free of the atmosphere. The stars swallowed them. Marcus staggered as gravity shifted, artificial stabilizers struggling to engage. Through a cracked viewport, he saw Carthus IV shrinking beneath them, desert plains glowing with burning craters from the Coalition's bombardment. But there was no relief. A wall of ships awaited them. Coalition cruisers, destroyers, and carriers moved into formation, their engines gleaming like a trap of fireflies. Calther's mandibles clicked nervously. They will not allow us to escape. You know this. Marcus nodded grimly. Yeah, I know. The Avalon's voice rumbled, steady despite the chaos. Weapons offline, evasion limited. Suggestion. Activate point defense systems. Probability of survival. 12%. Marcus froze. 12%? That's the best you've got? Affirmative. Calther hissed low. I do not like those odds. Marcus managed a tight grin. Better than 0. He slammed his hand on the console. Do it. The carrier shuddered as ancient panels slid open along its hull. Point defense turrets, scarred and rusted from centuries of silence, jerked to life. Streams of autocannon fire burst outward, shredding incoming missiles and plasma bolts. Coalition. Ships reeled as their barrages met resistance. For the first time in centuries, humanity's greatest warship fought back. But it wasn't enough. 3 cruisers broke through, unleashing concentrated beams that slammed into the Avalon's weakened shields. The carrier bucked violently, alarms shrieking. Marcus gritted his teeth. Avalon, we need more than defense. We need teeth. Main weapons offline. Power insufficient. Manual activation required. Then tell me where. The AI highlighted. Schematics across the holodisplay. Old weapons bays, long sealed, waiting for a crew that was dust. Marcus turned to Calther. I'll need to reactivate them manually. Calther's mandibles clicked sharply. In the middle of combat? Are you mad? Marcus's grin was sharp, defiant. I'm human. They sprinted through the carrier's colossal corridors, the decks trembling with every impact from outside. The ship was a labyrinth hangars. Large enough for cities, barracks for thousands of crew, chambers that echoed with emptiness. The Avalon whispered as they ran. Crew detected. Terran. Alien. Designation. Auxiliary. Calther glanced upward, unsettled. It knows me. Marcus smirked. Guess your crew know. They reached a sealed bulkhead. Beyond it lay the forward plasma lances, massive. Cannons that had once carved through fleets like butter. The hatch groaned, ancient servos grinding, before slowly opening. Inside, the weapon chamber stretched like a cathedral of steel. Panels sparked. Machinery hummed. The cannon's core flickered faintly, starving for power. Marcus dove into the control pit, hands flying across rusted switches. Sparks leapt. Energy. Conduits flared with blue light. Kelther called out, "Coalition ships closing. Hull breaches reported." Marcus gritted his teeth. Just a little more, the chamber roared to life. The cannon's heart pulsed with energy. Avalon's voice thundered. Primary plasma lance online. In orbit, Admiral Varys's fleet closed in for the kill. Her command ship unleashed a salvo of torpedoes, streaking toward the Avalons. Flank. Victory was moments away, until the supercarrier's spine ignited with blue fire. A beam of plasma, brighter than a star, ripped through space. The lead coalition cruiser vanished in an explosion that lit the void. The fleet staggered. Varys's eyes widened, her scales blanching pale. No, it cannot be. But it was. The Avalon was a white dot inside the weapon chamber. Marcus slumped against the railing, sweat dripping down his brow. He had done it. He had given the ghost its sword back. Kelther stared at him, voice hushed. "You just destroyed a coalition cruiser. Do you understand what you've done?" Marcus looked up at the glowing cannon, then at the stars beyond. "Yeah," he said softly. "I've started a war." The Avalon's AI spoke again, calm as stone. Message received, source, Earth, priority Alpha. Marcus froze. Earth? What message? The holograms shifted, displaying encrypted Terran code recent, not centuries. Old. Someone on Earth had sent a signal, and Avalon had heard it. Marcus's breath caught. Earth wasn't silent. Humanity wasn't broken. Somewhere, someone was still fighting. The chamber shook violently as more impacts rocked the ship. Kelther gripped the railing. "Marcus, the coalition will not stop. They will call reinforcements from every sector." Avalon's voice echoed, almost solemn. "Survival requires destination. Recommendation, Earth." Marcus's eyes burned with fire. He looked to the stars, then back to the glowing console. "Set a course." The AI paused. Warning. Probability of successful escape 6%. Marcus smiled grimly. Better than 0. The Avalon's engines flared brighter, preparing for a desperate jump. But Admiral Varys wasn't done. Her fleet regrouped, blocking every escape vector, and as the supercarrier charged its drives, her command ship unleashed a new weapon something Marcus had never seen before. A lance of black energy tore through the void, slamming into the Avalons. Shields. The carrier screamed, decks buckling, systems failing. Marcus was thrown against the console. Pain exploded across his ribs. Kelther shouted, "What was that?" The AI's voice faltered for the first time. "Unknown weapon detected. System collapse imminent." Marcus forced himself to stand, vision swimming. The Avalon's jump. Drive flickered, unstable. If he didn't act fast, the ship and everyone on it would die here. Asterisk the Black Lance. The bridge shook as if the universe itself were tearing apart. Marcus slammed against the railing, gasping, ribs screaming in pain. The Avalon's hull moaned like a wounded beast, metal plates warping under the assault. That weapon, whatever the coalition had fired, it wasn't standard. It wasn't plasma, wasn't kinetics, wasn't anything Marcus had seen in the old wars. It was darker, hungrier. The AI's voice boomed through the shuddering decks. Warning. Unknown energy signature detected. Effect. System destabilization. Probability of catastrophic failure. 91%. Kelther staggered upright, translucent. Exoskeleton glowing faintly from stress. His mandibles clattered in alarm. "Marcus, the Coalition has never wielded such weapons. This is Forbidden's technology." Marcus gritted his teeth, forcing focus through the pain. Avalon, can we still make the jump? Drive core at 43% stability. Jump attempt not advised. Catastrophic implosion possible. Another blast of black energy slammed into them, sending consoles sparking and crewless stations bursting into flame. The stars outside flickered, warped by the strange resonance. Kelthar turned glassy eyes wide. If they keep firing that, we'll be torn apart atom by atom. Marcus wiped blood from his mouth, glaring at the tactical feed. The Coalition fleet pressed tighter, Admiral Varys's flagship at the center, the Black Lance weapon glowing again. She wasn't just trying to stop them. She was trying to erase them. Marcus slammed a fist on the console. Avalon, what's left in our arsenal? Anything at all we can throw at them? The AI paused, as if weighing impossible odds. Secondary armaments offline. Plasma lances, one active. Remaining option, ramming speed. Probability of survival, 2%. Marcus barked a harsh laugh. Figures. Kelthar whirled to him. 2%? Are all humans so willing to die with odds so low? Marcus's eyes locked on the Coalition flagship, fire in his gaze. It's not about dying. It's about making damn sure they remember who we are. In her command chamber, Admiral Varys watched the Avalon writhe under the Black Lance's fury. Victory was close. Her fleet cheered over Combs, their voices hissing with triumph. But Varys did not cheer. Asterisk, her scales itched with unease. The Avalon was fighting back harder than it should. Terran ships were supposed to be relics, obsolete hulks of a dead empire. Yet here it stood, wounded but unbroken, lashing out like a cornered beast. And worse rumors were already spreading. Channels buzzed with whispers. The Terran supercarrier had returned. The humans had awakened their ghost. If those whispers reached other systems, if humanity's memory reignited across the stars, her Dominion's control would falter. No, she couldn't allow that. Intensify the assault, she ordered coldly. No wreckage. No survivors. Erase the Avalon from history. A second time. The Black Lance began to charge again, its eerie glow spreading like a wound across the void. Marcus felt the hair on his arms rise as the strange energy coiled around them. It wasn't just a weapon. It felt alive, predatory, gnawing at the edges. Of reality, Avalon's voice deepened, glitching faintly. Drive collapse imminent. Recommend immediate evacuation, Marcus snarled. Evacuate to what? Coalition prison cells? No thanks. He turned to Kelthar. We need to buy time for the jump drive to stabilize. If we don't, this ship dies here, and so do we. Kelthar's mandibles clicked rapidly, a Threxian sign of panic. Buy time how? You have no weapons left. Marcus's gaze dropped to the schematic of Avalon's titanic hull. One remaining plasma lance still glowed faintly on the display, its core sputtering but alive. He grinned a reckless human grin. Sometimes one bullet's all you need. He sprinted through the corridors again, Kelthar racing to keep. Up, the ship groaned and shook, ancient systems crying under the Black Lance's pressure. Sparks rained like stars inside the ship. They reached the plasma lance chamber. Its coils flickered, hungry for power. Marcus dove into the control pit, slamming switches and rerouting conduits. Avalon, dump everything you can spare into this weapon. I don't care if it fries half the lights on the ship. The AI responded instantly. Asterisk warning. Redirecting power will destabilize life support. Oxygen supply reduced. Marcus smirked. Guess we'll just hold our breath. Kelthar hissed in disbelief. You humans are insane. Damn right we are, Marcus growled. The chamber rumbled as energy poured into the weapon. The cannon's core glowed brighter, until it was hard to look at directly. Marcus stared at the tactical feed. The Coalition flagship loomed. Closer, Black Lance charging to full power. It was a race. Who would fire first? On the bridge of her flagship, Admiral Varys bared her fangs. Target locked. Fire. The Black Lance unleashed its fury. A stream of darkness ripped across the void, devouring starlight itself. At that same instant, the Avalon's plasma lance roared to life. A beam of blue fire erupted, meeting the Black Lance head-on. The void itself screamed. The clash lit the darkness like a second sun, a collision of ancient Terran might and forbidden Coalition power. Shockwaves rippled across space, tossing ships aside like driftwood in a storm. Marcus clung to the console, teeth clenched. His plasma lance strained, buckled, but held. For a moment, impossibly, the Avalon stood toe-to-toe with the Dominions. Newest weapon. Then the blue beam punched through. The Black Lance shattered. The Coalition flagship's bow erupted in fire. Metal split. Crew screamed. The mighty vessel staggered, torn open. Admiral Varys was thrown from her chair, scales scorched by the blast. Her command deck filled with alarms. She clawed herself upright, eyes blazing with hate. Impossible. She rasped. That ship, that human. Marcus fell back against the rail, chest heaving. The cannon chamber flickered, smoke rising from fried conduits. They had done it. They had broken the Coalition's Black Lance. Kelther stared at him, stunned. You just crippled the Admiral's flagship. Do you understand what this means? You will be hunted across the galaxy. Marcus managed a bloody grin. Good. Let them come. But the AI's voice cut through the moment, grave and cold. Warning. Jump core destabilizing. Immediate action required. Probability of successful jump, 3%. Marcus swore under his breath. Damn it, we're out of time. Kelther looked at him, desperate. 3% is suicide. Marcus met his gaze, fire burning in his eyes. Yeah, he said, gripping the console, but it's a chance. He slammed his palm on the override. The Avalon's engine screamed, tearing reality itself as the jump core flared. Space warped, twisting, folding around them. The stars stretched into lines of light. Coalition ships surged forward, weapons primed to deliver the killing blow. But before they could fire, the Avalon vanished in a blinding flash. Silence fell over. The battlefield. The Coalition fleet hung motionless, stunned. Admiral Varys's crippled flagship burned, her crew scrambling. The human supercarrier, the ghost of a forgotten war, had escaped. Inside the carrier, Marcus collapsed to his knees as the world warped around them. Lights flickered. Gravity. Buckled. His vision swam. Kelther groaned beside him, clutching his head. Where are we? Marcus looked at the flickering display. The nav readout glitched, showing warped coordinates, half-broken data. But one word stood clear, pulsing faintly on the console. Earth. Marcus single quotes. Breath caught. They were going home. But the AI's voice rumbled, heavy as a tomb. Warning. Critical damage. Jump incomplete. Location unstable. External anomaly detected. Marcus's stomach dropped. Anomaly? Kelther staggered to the viewport, mandibles trembling. Marcus, look. Marcus followed his gaze and froze. Beyond the viewport. The stars were wrong, twisted, shattered. A black rift hung in space before them, swirling like a wound in the universe, lightning arcing across its surface. And from within that rift, something moved, something impossibly vast, something not Coalition. Not human, something ancient. The rift of echoes. The void outside was broken, stars bent and warped, smeared like paint across glass. At the heart of it, the rift swirled black. And vast, a wound carved into reality itself. Lightning arced across its jagged edges, casting violent shadows inside the Avalon's bridge. And from within the rift, shapes moved, not ships, not anything Marcus's mind could categorize. Shadows with mass, silhouettes of impossible geometry, folding in and out of existence. The longer he stared, the more his stomach churned, as if the universe itself was rejecting what his eyes tried to see. Kelthar gripped the console, his translucent carapace flickering with stress light. His mandibles rattled uncontrollably. Marcus, that is not a natural phenomenon. That is older than empires. Older than stars. Marcus forced himself to tear his gaze away. His body screamed from exhaustion. His ribs ached, but his mind clung to clarity. Avalon, report. What the hell are we looking at? The AI's voice cracked with static. Designation unknown. Energy readings inconsistent. Cross-reference with database. Failure. Warning. Rift anomaly predates coalition. Archives. Marcus frowned. Predates the coalition? Affirmative. Estimated origin. 150,000 years. Kelthar shuddered. That is before even my people first reached the stars. The rift pulsed like something inside had heard them. A low vibration rattled the hull, resonating not just in metal but in bone. Marcus's chest tightened. It wasn't sound. It was intent. Something knew they were here. In the shattered void, one of the shapes emerged fully. Marcus staggered to the viewport, his breath catching. It was a ship, or at least it had once been. Its hull was jagged, fractured, yet impossibly intact. It dwarfed even the Avalon. Black spires jutted from its surface, glowing faintly with green fire. Symbols, ancient and broken, crawled across its sides like scars. Kelthar's voice dropped to a terrified whisper. That is no coalition vessel. That is a grave ship. My people tell stories of them. They were said to haunt the void before we even knew how to build fire. But those are only myths. The grave ship's lights flared. Avalon's alarms blared. Warning. Target lock detected. Marcus snapped back into motion. Avalon shields? Shields at 8%. Hull integrity critical. Kelthar's mandibles clattered in despair. We cannot survive another fight, Marcus. Not against that. Marcus slammed his hands on the console. We don't have a choice. If we shut down here, we're dead. If we run, we're dead. That thing isn't going to let us go. The AI rumbled. Jump core unstable. Recharge required. 6 hours. Survival without evasion? Unlikely. Marcus growled low in his throat. Then we'll hold out for 6 hours. Kelthar whirled on him. 6 hours? Against a grave ship? Do you even hear yourself? Marcus turned, eyes hard, burning with that reckless human defiance. I've heard worse odds. The grave ship opened. Not like doors, not like hatches. Its hull split, unraveling into jagged petals of metal. From its core, things spilled. Forth, drones, thousands of them, their shapes twisted, crawling like mechanical locusts across the void. Their eyes glowed green, their wings slicing space as they swarmed toward the Avalon. Marcus's jaw clenched. Avalon, bring up point defense. Every gun, every missile tube, every slingshot rock thrower you've got online. The AI's tone sharpened, acknowledged. Point defense reactivated. Probability of holding 18%. Turrets along the Avalon's battered hull swiveled, coughing fire into the void. Streams of autocannon rounds and flak bursts erupted, shredding the first wave of drones. Explosions glittered against the black, like fireworks swallowed by darkness. But for every drone destroyed, 2 more swarmed forward. They slammed into the Avalon's hull, claws digging into metal, cutting like surgical blades. Screeches reverberated through the corridors as they tore into ancient plating. Marcus grabbed his rifle from the rack. Calthor's eyes widened. "Where are you going?" Marcus racked the weapon with grim resolve. "If they're boarding, I'm not sitting here, waiting to die." Calthor hissed. "Madness. You cannot fight 1,000 machines." Marcus met his gaze. "Then I'll fight 10 at a time." The corridors of the Avalon came alive with war. Drones burst through the hull in showers of sparks, skittering on razor limbs. Their glowing eyes swept the halls, seeking Life Dot, and they found Marcus. He crouched at the end of a passage, rifle braced against his shoulder. The first drone lunged, and Marcus's shot blew its head apart in a burst of green fire. Asterisk, he moved. With soldier's instinct, each shot precise, each reload automatic. The recoil bruised his shoulder. His lungs burned, but he kept moving, driving the invaders back step by bloody step. Calthor fought beside him, though clumsily, wielding a stolen plasma carbine. Each shot from the alien scorched holes in the drones, his translucent frame glowing brighter under stress. Do all humans fight like this? Calthor hissed between blasts. Marcus's grim smile flickered. The stubborn ones. Meanwhile, the Avalon's AI-coordinated fire, turrets chewing through swarms outside. The ship groaned as hull breaches spread, but it did not falter. Crew detected in combat, assisting. Panels along the corridors snapped open, automated defense turrets, sliding into place. They unleashed streams of fire, mowing down drones in bursts of steel and flame. Marcus ducked behind cover as one of the drones exploded, molten shrapnel peppering his arm. He winced, blood dripping, but kept fighting. They cleared one corridor. Then another. Then another. Still more drones poured in. Calthor gasped, his mandibles rattling. "They do not stop." Marcus spat blood and chambered another round. "Neither do we." On the grave ship, something stirred. Its core pulsed. Brighter, symbols glowing with alien fire. And then, from the rift itself, another shape began to emerge, larger, darker, older. The Avalon's AI spoke, its voice uncharacteristically sharp. "Warning. Secondary contact detected. Scale. Immeasurable." Marcus froze mid-shot, staring. At the tactical feed, a silhouette, larger than moons, was pulling itself from the rift. Calthor whispered, horrified. "Marcus, that is not a ship. That is a world." And indeed, it was. A planet, broken, hollow, drifting alive. Spires jutted from its surface, green fire bleeding from its cracks. And around it, more drones stirred like insects from a hive. Marcus's. Rifle lowered slowly, his heart pounding. Asterisk, this wasn't a fight. This was an awakening. On her crippled flagship, Admiral Varus watched from afar. Her crew gaped, horrified, as the rift widened and the grave world emerged. For once, she felt fear. True fear. What have the humans done? She whispered Dot because she knew, deep down, this wasn't the Avalon's doing. This was older. This was worse. Dot inside the Avalon. Marcus wiped blood from his eyes, staring at the growing silhouette outside. His voice was low, grim. "Avalon, tell me you've got something." "Anything." The AI responded, quiet. Recommendation. Run. Probability of survival in engagement. 0%. Marcus's hands tightened on his rifle. His entire life, humanity had been running from the coalition, from extinction, from their own failures. But this was different. Calthor turned to him, desperation in his glassy eyes. "Marcus, if we stay, we die. If we fight, we die. What will you do?" Marcus's jaw clenched, the fire of human stubbornness burning bright. He stared at the grave world, then back at the broken nav screen flickering one word, Earth, and he made his choice. Asterisk. The road to Earth the Avalon's bridge stank of ozone and blood. Smoke curled from shattered panels. The ship groaned as if in pain. Ancient systems pushed past their limits. Marcus stood hunched over the command chair, one arm clutching his ribs, the other braced against the console. His rifle hung from its strap, stained and empty. Kelthar slumped against a wall, his carapace cracked and glowing faintly. Every breath was ragged. Still, his black eyes never left the viewport, where the impossible horror unfolded. The grave world hung in the rift like a cancer, green fire bleeding from its broken crust. Drones poured from its surface, a storm of claws and steel. Behind them, the smaller gray ship circled like a predator, herding Avalon closer to annihilation. The AI's voice filled the silence. Recommendation: immediate retreat. Probability of victory: 0. Marcus licked cracked lips. Where's? The nearest jump corridor? Nearest stable corridor. 3.2 light minutes. Unreachable under current pursuit. Kelthar rasped. There is nowhere to run. The Coalition cannot save us. No fleet could. Marcus's gaze fell to the flickering nav screen. Amid the broken data streams, one word still pulsed: :earth.home. Forgotten. But maybe not helpless. Marcus slammed his fist against the console. Avalon, plot a course. We're going to Earth. Kelthar's mandibles snapped open. Are you insane? Dragging those things to your homeworld? You would doom your own species. Marcus's eyes burned with fire. No, Earth isn't what they think. They wrote us off centuries ago, but I know my people. We've survived worse than the Coalition. If anyone has a chance against whatever, the hell that is, he jabbed a finger toward the grave world. It's us. The AI hesitated. Jump to Sol system, possible. Core at 23% stability. Warning: failure may result in collapse of ship integrity. Marcus leaned closer. His voice was low, fierce. Then hold together. Just one more time. The Avalon's engines roared. Thrusters flared, gouging light across the broken void. The ship turned its colossal frame toward the rift, drones clawing at its flanks, plasma fire streaking past. Kelthar braced himself, mandibles rattling. This is suicide. Marcus almost smiled. Yeah, but it's the kind of suicide humans are good at. The grave ship reacted. Its spires glowed brighter, beams of emerald fire lashing out. One struck the Avalon's flank, ripping through armor. The ship shuddered violently, metal screaming. Fires erupted in half a dozen decks. Hull breach. Decks 14 through 17. Compromised, the AI reported. Marcus gritted his teeth. Seal them off. Push power to the jump core. Core charging. 4 minutes required. The drones swarmed closer, slamming into turrets, crawling over the hull. Automated guns shredded them, but for every one destroyed, more poured in. Sparks rained down inside the bridge as systems overloaded. Kelthar hissed in despair. We cannot last 4 minutes. Marcus grabbed the intercom, his voice echoing through the empty corridors of the ship. This is Marcus High. Avalon, I don't know if you can hear me the way I hear you, but you're not dead. You've carried ghosts for 200 years. I'm asking you to carry one more. Take us home. The ship answered. Dot lights blazed along its spine. Ancient reactors groaned, then thundered to life with a sound like gods waking from slumber. The Avalon surged forward, swatting drones from its hull with bursts of plasma and flak. The AI's voice rang stronger, steadier. Core charge, 70%, 3 minutes. But the grave ship was closing. It loomed behind them, weapons glowing brighter, preparing a final strike. Marcus's mind raced. If that beam hit, the Avalon would never finish its charge. He had one option left. Kelthar, helm control. The alien blinked. What? Take the helm. Keep us steady. Kelthar's mandibles clattered. And you? Marcus slung his rifle, limping toward the emergency pod bay. Buying us time. Kelther's voice broke. That ship will kill you. Marcus gave a half-smile over his shoulder. Not if I hit it first. Inside the bay, an old Terran-striked pod lay dormant, half buried in dust and rust. Marcus climbed in, sealing the hatch. A system sputtered, coughed, then hummed faintly to life. He gripped the controls, heart pounding. Avalon. Open launch. Tube 3. The AI's voice carried a note of something almost human. Acknowledged. Good hunting, Marcus. The pod catapulted into the void, streaking toward the graveship. Marcus's teeth rattled from the acceleration. His ribs screamed. But his hands were steady. The pod's nose lit up with an ancient Terran warhead, small compared to the graveship, but enough to wound, enough to distract. The graveship loomed like a mountain, spires glowing. Marcus's voice was low, grim. Come on, you bastard. Look at me. The warhead armed. Lights flashed red inside the pod dot behind him. Avalon's engines flared brighter, the jump core reaching its crescendo. Core charge, 95%. 1 minute. The graveship's weapons locked onto Avalon, then twitched, shifting toward Marcus's tiny pod. Marcus laughed through bloodied lips. That's it. Eyes on me. The graveship's beam fired. Marcus screamed as the pod disintegrated around him, fire swallowing everything. The warhead detonated in a blinding flash, tearing a jagged wound into the graveship's flank. On the Avalon, Kelther shielded his eyes from the explosion. His mandibles parted in shock. Marcus. The AI's voice cut through. Core. At full charge. Jump ready. Kelther's claws trembled on the helm. He whispered, almost reverently, do not waste his sacrifice. He slammed the control. The Avalon leapt. The stars blurred, folding, screening past in a river of light. The graveship's fire reached for them, but fell short. The drones dissolved into nothingness. And then dash, silence. Darkness. Stillness. Not the Avalon. Emerged into real space. Kelther staggered to the viewport, his glassy eyes widening. There it was. Blue oceans, white clouds, green continents. Earth. The Avalon hung broken, scarred, bleeding fire into the void. But it had made it, and below, unaware, humanity's home still turned. Kelther whispered, so this is your world. No wonder you fight like demons to protect it. The AI spoke, its voice quieter now. Status. Catastrophic damage. Crew. 1. Probability of survival without assistance. Negligible. Kelther lowered his head. Then this world must rise. Or we all fall. And far away, in the shadows of space, unseen eyes opened. The grave world had not forgotten. It would follow. Asterisk. The last stand of Avalon Earth. Marcus Hall had not seen it in decades. Now it filled the viewport, vast and alive, spinning beneath a curtain of stars. Its oceans shimmered blue, its clouds swirled white, its continents burned green under sunlight. Home. The Avalon drifted in orbit, a ghost of her former glory. Hull plating peeled like dead skin. Fires burned in shattered decks. The supercarrier bled sparks into the void, but still she lived. Kelther stood on the bridge, his alien body trembling. His black eyes drank in the sight of Earth. So small, and yet his voice dropped to a reverent whisper. It feels defiant. The AI's voice crackled, softer than before. Core stable at 12%. Engines offline. Weapon systems at 9%. Status. Critical. Kelther's mandibles clicked nervously. We cannot fight again. Not like this. The alien turned his gaze toward the stars. He knew the grave world would come. It was only a matter of time, but Earth had no idea what was about to arrive. Flicker of static filled the air. Then, Avalon? Kelthur froze. The voice was human. The AI responded. Signal origin, Earth Defense Net, Luna Relay. The voice came again, urgent and disbelieving. Asterisk, this is Commodore Reyes, Terran Defense. Identify yourself. Did you say Avalon? Kelthur exhaled, stunned. Humanity still had a defense network. They weren't as broken as the Coalition. Claimed. He looked at the console. For a long moment, he hesitated. Then, with a trembling claw, he pressed the comm switch. This is Kelthur of Threxian trade clans. I am aboard Avalon. But she is broken. We need help. There was silence. Then a harsh, demanding voice. Where is Marcus Hawley? Kelthur's mandibles shifted uncertainly. He looked down. Marcus's strike pod had been torn apart in the blast. Kelthur hadn't seen him since. But before he could speak, the AI's voice cut through. Status, Marcus Hale alive. Current location, Stasis Chamber 3, cryocontainment. Condition, critical but stable. Kelthur's chest rattled. With relief. He hadn't realized how much the human meant to him, until that moment the comms officer on Earth nearly shouted. Get him here, now. Moments later, Medivac shuttles launched from Luna. Sleek, silver, modern Terran craft darted toward the Avalon. When they docked, humans poured aboard armed soldiers, medics, engineers. Their eyes widened at the sight of the ancient supercarriers. Halls, scarred yet magnificent. Some reached out to touch the walls, reverent, as if greeting a long-lost ancestor. Kelthur watched, quiet. For the first time, he saw humans not as scattered exiles, but as a people still standing. The medics rushed Marcus from the stasis chamber. His face was pale, his body mangled, but his chest rose and fell. Machines beeped steadily. One of the soldiers glanced at Kelthur. You fought with him? Kelthur's mandibles clattered softly. I survived with him. There is a difference. The soldier nodded once. Grim and respectful. Hours later, Earth convened its defense council. Generals, admirals, scientists, and politicians gathered in the Luna Citadel. At the center of the chamber, a massive holomap displayed the rift anomaly. The grave world's silhouette loomed like a nightmare beyond the stars. Commodore Reyes slammed her fist against the table. We need the truth. How did Avalon return? What is coming through that rift? Kelthur stood among them, a lone alien in a room of wary humans. His glassy body shimmered faintly in the light. I will tell you, but you will not like it. He explained the grave ships, the rift, the drones, the grave world itself. The myths of his people. The awakening Marcus had bought with his blood. When he finished, silence gripped the chamber. One general muttered, This is extinction. Another growled, We can't fight that. The Coalition couldn't fight that. Commodore Reyes's eyes burned like fire. Then we'll do what humanity always does. We'll fight anyway. On a distant star lane, the Coalition fleet limped forward. Admiral Varys's flagship still burned from her last encounter with Avalon. Her crew whispered of omens, of the rift, of shadows older than history. But Varys's gaze was iron. Set course for Sol, she ordered. Her officers hesitated. Admiral, Earth is... Varys cut him off coldly. Earth has what we need. Avalon. And if the grave world comes, it will not care about species or borders. It will consume us all. Humanity may be weak, but they hold the key. We must take it or die. Back on Earth, Marcus stirred. He opened his eyes at a white medbay, pain flooding him instantly. Machines hissed. Bandages wrapped his body. Kelthur sat nearby, watching silently. You live, the alien said simply. Marcus tried to sit up, groaning. Damn it, did we make it? Kelthar nodded slowly. This is Earth. Your people? They are not broken as you thought. Marcus exhaled, relief and pride mingling. Good, because they're about to need every ounce of fight they've got. The rift widened in the outer system. Near Pluto's orbit, space cracked open. The grave world emerged, dragging its swarm like a tide of locusts. Green fire bled into the dark, casting a sickly glow across the void. The first human patrol craft saw it. Their comms cut out mid-scream. Earth prepared. The Avalon was patched as best as possible, her guns brought back online by Terran engineers working night and day. Civilian shipyards converted freighters into makeshift warships. Orbital cannons powered up, humming with energy. Marcus, half broken but unyielding, stood on Avalon's bridge once more. His chest was wrapped in bandages, his steps unsteady, but his eyes blazed. Kelthar stood beside him. Your body is failing. You should be in recovery. Marcus smirked, bloody but defiant. Been failing for years. Doesn't mean I stop. The grave world swarm arrived in force. Tens of thousands of drones streaked into the system, a black storm blotting the stars. Human fleets met them head-on. Railguns thundered. Missiles streaked. Plasma fire lit the void. Ships died by the dozen, but they fought on. Marcus's voice roared across comms. This is Marcus Hale of Avalon. Hold the line. Every second you stand is a second Earth breathes. Kelthar watched in awe. This broken human, this single soul, lit a fire across an entire species. And then the Coalition arrived. Admiral Varys's battered fleet dropped from jump space, weapons blazing. Her voice cut across all frequencies. Coalition vessels to me. By treaty or by blood, we fight together. For the first time in centuries, human and alien fleets formed a single wall. The grave world struck like a god, its beams tearing through cruisers, its swarm overwhelming defenses. But united, the line held. Marcus gripped the console, voice raw. Avalon, give me everything you've got. The supercarrier's ancient heart roared one last time. Guns, missiles, plasma, all unleashed in a storm of fire. The Avalon threw herself at the grave world, striking its spires, cracking its crust, bleeding its green fire into the void. The battle raged for hours. Ships died, worlds trembled. But the grave world faltered. At last, Avalon's final barrage struck deep into its core. A blinding eruption swallowed the stars. When the light faded, the grave world was gone. So was Avalon. Silence fell across comms. The swarm dissolved, lifeless, without their master. Earth still turned below, alive. Kelthar stood alone on a drifting lifeboat, staring at the debris field. His mandibles clattered softly. He did it. He damned himself and saved us all. Weeks later, word spread across the galaxy that the Coalition had seen Earth rise from ashes. They had seen the Avalon return and fall. And everywhere, in every port and colony, one phrase was whispered with awe and fear alike. Humanity fights. On Earth, beneath a carved stone in the Luna Citadel, a simple inscription was written. Marcus Hale. He carried the ghosts. He brought us home. But deep in the void, beyond forgotten rifts, shadows stirred. The grave world had not been alone. The war was only beginning. Asterisk.